Welcome to Pickem. The playoffs are here. The NFL playoffs are upon us. Today is the day before wildcard weekend, wildcard weekend eve, if you will. Guy here, your host as always. We're going to get into the breakdowns in a few minutes. But before we get into the games, just want to talk a little bit about what has been going on around the league with coach firings and new developments for the teams who didn't make the dance this NFL season. And we'll start with our friends, the New York Jets. Of course, Aaron Glenn looks like he's going to keep his job. Brady Cook was awful again. Shocker. So they're looks like they're going to stand pat there, and they've never really been a team to deceive anybody. They're pretty open about what they're going to do. I mean, everyone in the world knew they were going to draft Zach Wilson. Was that 4 or 5 years a while back? Everyone knew they were going to draft him. So they're not really good at keeping surprises in house. So I expect Aaron Glenn will return as the New York Jets head coach. Mike McDaniel, the Dolphins coach, got fired. I think that means Harbaugh's interested. The rumor is that Harbaugh could be going to Miami, and then that could lead to. There's a lot of rumors on Miami. Joe Burrow, John Harbaugh. They're looking for a new GM. Of course, the GM got fired. I can see why he got fired. The way the Dolphins have the offensive line just. You have a Tua-like quarterback, you need an offensive line, and they just haven't been able to build there. Who else? Oh, Raheem Morris. Raheem Morris was fired before the Steelers game. He was fired. They sent him packing as soon as they beat the Saints and put the Carolina Panthers into the playoffs last week. Raheem Morris didn't last more than a minute after the game. Shocker. The GM's they're cleaning house, and the Falcons need to clean house. They got talent there. Lots of good players, but a little bit of clowns running the show essentially in Atlanta. Not the players, the coaches, the general manager, of course. Like giving Kirk Cousins that. I mean, I think that's off the books now. So fresh start completely for the Atlanta Falcons. Who else? Coach got fired. Washington fired the coordinator. I think Kingsbury left. I think Dan Quinn's still going to be there. I don't know why he wouldn't. John Harbaugh, obviously we talked about him. He's been fired for the 18 years. We still could have some more coaches depending what happens here. Wild card weekend. Pete Carroll was fired after 1 year. I mean, you hired Chip Kelly. The season was awful, but they got the number 1 overall pick. So thanks to the Giants winning when they shouldn't have been, but of course, players play to win. I think that's is that all? Well, somebody else got fired. Dan Campbell fired his offensive coordinator John Morton, who wasn't very good. I mean, you're filling some pretty big shoes there, so I give him the benefit of the doubt, but he's gone. The Browns fired Stefanski despite winning Coach of the Year twice. I don't really know about this one. I think this is more the management than Stefanski. Someone will hire Stefanski probably pretty quickly. Kellen Moore is definitely going to keep his job at the Saints. The Bengals, Zach Taylor's going to keep his. They're just cheap. They don't want to pay anybody. And I know with Jonathan Gannon. I mean, Arizona was a disaster for quite a while now. We'll see what happens there. Lots of turnover. So lots of interesting developments in terms of people firing people, keeping their jobs. I will talk more about that as the season maybe the Super Bowl, but let's focus on who's still around, who's in the games, and we start in Charlotte, North Carolina. 4:30 start time here. Rams, Panthers. The Panthers 10.5-point home underdogs in the playoffs. For the first time ever, we have a 10.5-point home under. It's never happened before. The biggest spread, I believe, was 10 from a few years ago when I don't know if they were 7-9 or the Commanders, who also were below 500, won their division, hosting Brady and the Bucks. Interesting to note, the Commanders covered in that game. The total 46.5. The Rams snapped their 2-game losing skid, destroying the Cardinals 37-20, clinching the 5 seed, which they wanted because I would much rather play Carolina than Philadelphia. Stafford, he's live for MVP, but I think he's going to lose out to Drake May. The Rams are the biggest road favorite, I mentioned that, ever in NFL history in the playoffs. They were only double-digit road chalk once this year. It was here in Charlotte, and of course they lost outright. Stafford, I believe, had 3 picks in that game. Quentin Lake, defensive back Quentin Lake, is back. This is a huge development. Since he's been gone, the Rams have been a pretty poor defensive team. Now with him back, should bolster their defense, make them a little bit better. Kevin Dotson, the guard, however, has been ruled out. So often one guard, McVay could probably make up for that. I'm not too concerned about one guard. And of course, Devontae Adams will return. And of course, the red zone offense without Devontae Adams had been not as good. With Adams back, this Rams offense should cook, especially against this defense. Now, the Panthers back in the playoffs. Kirk Cousins and the Falcons took care of business for them after they lost. However, this is another thing I want to talk about around the league. The Panthers should have beat the Bucs. Okay, that the officiating last week was horrendous. It's been bad but that Bucs Panthers game is I've never seen 4 horrible calls in a row. Obvious poor calls in a row against the Carolina Panthers. I mean, that was just ridiculous. NFL, you have all these gambling sponsors and, of course, people screaming your game's rigged and the scriptwriter joke and this, that, and the other. You cannot have these terrible referees making the referees making these terrible calls because people are going to cry, uncle. I mean, Puka Nacua, of course, has been complaining on the other side. So I don't know if the Rams are going to get the calls that the Bucs got last week against Carolina with Puka Nacua and his big mouth on the other side here. Ted McMillan is likely your offensive rookie of the year. The Panthers made the playoffs. That kind of cinched it for him. Jackson Dart, ending with 5 wins, 4 wins. Again, the horrible officiating. Robert Hunt will return for the Carolina Panthers. That's huge. Guard Robert Hunt. However, our offensive lineman, I don't know if they're going to play my guard or tackle, but guard Chandler Zavala has been ruled out. So 1 in, 1 out. Robert Hunt might be their best player. So, McMillan's still a rookie, so you could argue he's their best player. But J.C. Horn, he looks like he's healthy. He's going to need another big game for the Panthers to stay in this year. He's going to need a pick. All right? And he was very... Now, I remember watching that Rams-Panthers game the first. He was very good. He was reading plays. He made big plays in that game. I think did he have 2 interceptions in that game? He had at least 1. And then, of course, I talked about there's only been 1 10-point dog in the playoffs at home. A home 10-point dog. Excuse me. Sorry. I had some spicy food for dinner a few minutes ago, so a little bit leaky here. But the only 10-point home dog in the playoffs is covered. The only double-digit dog. Now I get it. Panthers team is a suspect defense. Nobody wants to back them. The Rams are everybody's Super Bowl. Everyone everywhere is picking the Rams to go to the Super Bowl. Or the Seahawks, of course, but. Out of the 12 teams that are playing this week, the Rams are the one that I've seen people pick to go to the Super Bowl. But the Stafford throws these turnover-worthy plays. I think J.C. Horn and company are going to be able to pick him off once or twice here. The question is, what can we get from Bryce Young in the offense? His first playoff start, but it is at home, and it's against a team he's beaten already in the Los Angeles Rams, and you're 10.5 point. There's no pressure. 0 pressure for the Panthers. They're expected to get shellacked. But, don't young guys on the team. Robert Hunt's coming back, and they beat the Rams. So I don't think they're going to lay down. It's a playoff game. No one's going to lay down. But I bet the Panthers. I know. It's too many points. Too many points for the Carolina Panthers. I've seen her say, I can't do it. I can't bet it. The number's bad. Like this shouldn't be 10.5. The Panthers aren't 12 points worse than the Rams. You got to give at least 1.5, and maybe 2.5. It's not 2.5, but maybe 2 for the playoff game at home here in a stadium that hasn't seen a playoff game in a long, long time. So it should be good crowd. And, you just got to hang around 10.5 points. And I know the Rams could blow them out. The Rams could, destroy this defense. But if we can get, even with Quinn Lake back, I think the Panthers can move the football here. I think the Panthers can at least stay within 2 scores here. I think the back door is going to be live for sure. The Panthers back door, especially in a playoff game where there's nothing to lose, right? Like you lose, you go. I mean, there's everything to lose. So you're not going to pack it in for next week. There is no next week. They're going to keep playing hard until the end. If they're down 17 late, don't be surprised if they backdoor the Rams here. And at the same time, with that being said, the Panthers' method to cover here is the game's got to, they got to score. I don't know if I trust the defense to stop. I trust them to get maybe a turnover or 2, but Bryce Young can turn the ball over too. So, but I think over, this total's a little bit low. I mean, the Rams should probably get 30 here, right? Like, we can get 17 out of the Panthers. Why can't we get 17 out of the Panthers? So, 30-17, but I obviously want the cover. So 20 out of the Panthers. I'm going to get 20 out of the Panthers here. So I think the Rams going to get to 27-30, and we get 20 of the Panthers here. I think we're good. So Panthers plus 10.5 and the over. And you could parlay the 2. I'm not usually a parlay person, but this is correlated because the defensive struggle between these 2 teams, I don't know if I see that. I could see maybe a lot of running, which would concern the over. And obviously, the slower pace of the game, the better the points are, which is why I kind of prefer the points, because I could see a lot of the Panthers being like, we got to keep Stafford off the field here and run the ball. And they can run the football. I think they will be able to run the football here. When the Panthers can run, the Panthers are live to cover. And another stat, the Panthers, off a loss, are still undefeated against the spread. 8-0 against the spread off a loss, including last week where they did cover the number despite being hosed by the officials 4 times in a row. They did cover the number, so barely, but it got there and it cashed the nice bet there. Nice bounce back week 18 for me after the horrible week 17. So I'm on the Panthers plus 10.5, and I'm on the over. I understand if you don't have the balls to back them. I'm not betting the money line. I thought about it because Panthers have been very good at home this season, but the Rams are probably going to win this. But I don't think Bryce Young is this is a defense that is really going to cook them. Plus, I think they can run the ball, and they're at home. I think the home crowd is going to play a factor here. So that being said, not going to get to the money line, even though it's a huge price and straight. They beat them earlier in the season, but 10.5 in a playoff game on the road, too many points. Panthers plus 10.5. I got the balls to take it. All right, Packers Bears round 3, the third time in 5 weeks? Packers Bears. The Bears. Can you believe this? The Bears are 1.5 point home dogs in a playoff game in Chicago. That is just wild to me. And it's not like they're playing, a Power 8 team. They're playing that 9-7-1 Packers who snuck in on that ridiculous tie. Good for you. I guess the cowards win. Cowards fight another day, but maybe after this weekend we'll see. So the Packers rested as many people as they could last week, and players still got hurt in the secondary. I shouldn't laugh at players getting hurt, but it's just ironic. They tried to rest as many people as possible, and they still had Bo Melton, cornerback / wide receiver, placed on IR. Javon Bullard, safety / secondary piece, also got hurt, but I think he's going to play. Nick Neiman, linebacker. Zach Tom, the offensive lineman. Can't read my own writing. Brinson, the defensive lineman, and Malik Willis are questionable. They cut Clayton Tune, and they kept Desmond Ridder just in case Malik Willis can't suit up. So Desmond Ridder could be the backup here. If he comes into the game, you might want to live bet the Bears by a lot. Because that Malik Willis is pretty good, but Desmond Ridder. I've seen him play even in the Green Bay Packers system. Like we saw what Clayton too did. I think I'm worried about even coming to the game last week. They did nothing, is what they did. Wide receiver Dontavian Wicks has been ruled out, and Green Bay limps into the playoffs on a 4-game losing streak. They've lost 4 straight. The last time they won was against these Chicago Bears in Green Bay, though, not in Chicago. Chicago's also limping into the playoffs on a 2-game losing streak, and their last one was also against the Packers at home in Chicago. But they still retained the 2 seed because the Eagles rested everybody and lost to the Commanders and Josh Johnson. The last win by each team was at home to the other team. Of course, Chicago is at home here. Now that last win, we thought a little bit fluky. Obviously had the onside kick. You had I think it was a couple of fumbles in that game where the Packers probably should have won that game. So that does have me concerned here about not taking the Bears. But at the same time, you're in Soldier Field, and there's going to be 23 to 27 kilometer an hour winds in Chicago Saturday night, and a chance of snow showers, so Bear football. And I think Chicago, especially in the windy conditions, has a significant special teams edge here because Cairo Santos was placing kicks wherever he wanted them in that windy game a few weeks ago against the Packers. His kick placement was fantastic. So he's used to kicking in these windy conditions. And when you talk about a spread, especially in the playoffs, less than 3, what tends to rear its ugly head? Special teams. And I think there's a significant special teams advantage for the Bears, not only on their kicker, but you saw the onside kick recovered by the Bears. And the Packers are definitely more banged up. The Bears have some injuries too. Braxton Jones, the lineman, is questionable. They have a couple guys out on defense. But their pass defense should be pretty good. The Packers are going to have to run the ball here. I don't know if the Bears will sell out to the run, but I think the Packers' game plan will be to run the ball here. I don't know how healthy Jordan Love is. He's going to go. And another concern for Chicago, it's Caleb Williams' first playoff start. We talked about Young. Just like Bryce Young, though, it is at home. He's an underdog. It's not starting as a favorite. And they haven't played great the last couple of weeks against San Francisco and Detroit. So normally, all season, I got to take the Bears, But, they lost 2 in a row, both straight up and against the spread. They're playing a team for the 3rd time, a team that they kind of stole a win against the last time. However, that team, like the Packers, are just, they can't be laying points on the road here the way they're, I know the guys are coming back, but they're still a little bit banged up. And I don't trust them in the elements. I don't trust that their special teams have notoriously been horrible since Matt LaFleur has been there. They've cost them many playoff games. And you look at their playoff track record. When's the last time they got out of the wild card round? They've won one playoff game in the last few years? That was against Dallas, who's one of the biggest playoff choke artists in the recent NFL history. Like the Packers haven't won anything in the playoffs for years. I know they made the NFC Championship game in 1 year against Tom Brady. They choked that one away. That was Aaron Rodgers. But outside that, they haven't got past the divisional round. They lost to the Eagles last year in a game that the Eagles didn't have to do much. The Packers were just inept on offense. So I don't trust the Packers in a road playoff game. There's no way. Chicago should be 2-point chalk here. They're not. I make Chicago 2-point favorites here. I think that these teams are fairly even. You could argue the Packers are a point or half a point better, but the home field at night in Chicago, in the wind, in the snow, I think that's worth 2.5, 3 points in the playoffs. So give me the Bears plus 1.5. It is not the biggest bet I have on the card, but and another thing, the Packers off a loss this season haven't been good. They've had multiple losing streaks. They're currently on one right now. They've had multiple 2-game losing streaks. They're currently on a 4-game losing streak. They have not been good off a loss. Also, you could say, well, it wasn't a loss. They basically took a bye week last week. No, that's a fair argument, but off a bye, last 4 years, Packers are 1-3 against the spread. So they haven't been good in this scenario. So Bears for me, plus 1.5. It's like I said, I'm not as I have the rookie quarterback, and the way the last game went, I really concerned. But and there's also distractions for the Packers. Of course, Jeff Halfley is getting interviews. So and LaFleur could be LaFleur could be gone if they lose this game. So I'll take Chicago. I'm gonna bet him again. Yeah, why not? At home, getting points. I like the Bears in this spot. Bear down, as Doggy says in the chat. All right, moving along to TK Land, where the Jaguars are Pickem now. They were dogs earlier in the week, but injuries to Buffalo have changed that. The Jags now Pickem against the Bills. The total 51.5. Let's start with the Jaguars. The Jags clinched the AFC South with a win over the Titans last week. Now, Cam Ward got hurt. I think that game might have been more competitive if, Cam Ward get hurt. And I think Brandon Allen came in. He was awful. The Jags come in on an 8-game win streak. They haven't lost a game since that they blew that fourth quarter lead to the Texans. Even in that game, they had complete control. Parker Washington continues to be a fantastic wide receiver 3. Trevor Lawrence has 3. You got Parker Washington. He's your wide receiver 3. He's been lights out last few weeks. You still got Brian Thomas Jr. and you got Jacoby Myers that you got from the Vegas Raiders. We're just going to waste him anyways. Probably sit him last week anyways. So, that's 3-headed monster receiver. The run game's working. Liam Cohen's got this team firing on all cylinders. Trevor Lawrence playing the best football of his career. The Jags are coming in hot as hot can be. Now the concern, there is an injury concern. Left tackle Cole Van Lanen is questionable. He didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. He's limited today, so there's a chance he plays Sunday. However, the Jaguars have offensive lineup. They still have Walker Little, who's been their left tackle in previous seasons. So he can come in there, and I don't think it's a downgrade, but it's not much of a downgrade. I think Walker Little's a fine player. He's probably their best. I think he was their best ranked lineman last year, so he's fine. And like I said, money's come for the Jags. The Sharps like the Jags, and I don't really blame them because the Bills smashed the Jets with Trubisky to lock up the 6th seed. I don't know. I think they might have been better off losing that game. The Bills defense has looked. They've looked okay in the second half recently. They've made good second half adjustments to Bills defense. I've noticed that. And if you like Jacksonville, it's a little bit of a concern. But I don't trust them. And Ed Oliver's still out. You have Jordan Phillips and DeMar Hamlin also still on IR. They're not coming back. Terrell Bernard, the linebacker, he's now out. And then linebacker Shaq Thompson's questionable, but the report are he's going to play. Ty Johnson, the running back, and Josh Palmer, wide receiver, also questionable. And the big one, we talk special teams in these closely lined games. Matt Prater is questionable. The kicker, they signed Matthew Wright to the practice squad, Mr. Wright. But I don't know, he might be Mr. Wrong for the Bills right now. You don't want kicker issues in a playoff game. We've seen this haunt the Bills before. Just a few years, Tyler Bass on the injury report. Guess what happened? He missed a field goal late in that game to tie the game against the Chiefs. If Prater goes, that's sus. And then if Wright goes, when's the last time that guy kicked? We saw the kicks really matter. The Sunday Night Football, what happened with Tyler Loop? Kickers matter, especially when a game is around Pickem, less than 3 points. And the Bills' offense hasn't been great outside of James Cook. James Cook has been fantastic. He's been everything that the Bills could have asked for. The running game, the offensive line's been good, right? But and Josh Allen's hurt. He doesn't look himself out there, and the receivers that just outside of Khalil Shakir, it's not good. Josh Palmer's question, he's banged up. Keon Coleman's a ghost. You can't find him out there with the telescope. The tight ends are hit and miss. So one day, 1 week Dawson Knox is catching passes left and right. The next week he's dropping a touchdown pass against the Browns. So you can't trust him. Kincaid's been banged up. He's been all right. So Kincaid, maybe you have a second weapon there, but And then, they're at Quentin Morris. Like, I mean, after that, it gets slim pick. Gabe Davis is back. Oh, boy. And he had, one catch in his return game. The wide receiver core for Buffalo, I don't trust. Josh Allen's hurt. If the Jags get a lead here, even with this, like, I don't know if the second half defensive adjustments are going to be enough here. I'm on the Jags on the money line. I got minus 105 on that. I like it. The Jags should be the Jags should be 2.5 3-point favorites here. The Bills are just, the Jags are hot as hot can be. And Trevor Lawrence has playoff experience. He's won a playoff game. He's lost a playoff game. Liam Cohen has playoff experience calling plays, obviously in Tampa Bay. It's not one of these scenarios where a rookie's coming in here and you have to be concerned about that against the experienced quarterback, experienced coach. Like I said, the one concern here is, do the Bills make second half adjustments? If it's tight going into the second half, I might hedge out a little bit on Buffalo if it is a little bit tight. I that is a concern. I could see Buffalo winning this, but they got to keep it tight because I don't know if they're going to be able to come back with, because they have to run the football. Like you're gonna, like I said, they don't have the weapons on the outside. So they gotta clamber down here. And another thing, this total is a little too, even with the Bills defense being kind of sus, the total is a little bit too high. I might add the under on this game. If these I saw the trends, the totals over 51 in wildcard round have been all unders. These games are tight. It's playoff football now, so I might add half a unit under 51.5 here, because it's kind of a little bit of a hedge, because I can see the Bills playing better defense in the second half, but at the same time, I don't trust the Bills' offense. So, and if the Jags get a lead, they with the Bills' injuries at linebacker, they can run the ball at will and burn this clock out, which is kind of what I see happening. So maybe I will add half a unit here, under 51.5. All right, that is it for TK Land. It is now time to talk about the big line move. This is, Buffalo Jacksonville should be fun, but Jacksonville has Buffalo's injuries might make that game a non-factor. Obviously, Chicago Green Bay is going to be great, but I'm surprised this wasn't the Sunday night game. Maybe it's because the injuries to San Francisco. Maybe because the Eagles are kind of playing sloppy football. But I feel like this is like the two biggest fan bases. I mean, Bears, Packers too. But that's the Saturday night game. I feel like we should have this game on Sunday. I think this is one of the bigger games of the board tonight. And the market is writing off San Francisco because of the injuries. And I can't trust the Eagles to win by margin here. So the Eagles opened 3.5-point favorites, and I thought that was wrong. And I went, my smart ass went and bet San Francisco plus 3.5 earlier in the week. Just horrible number. But I thought about buying off because I'm like, uh-oh. When I look more deeper into it, San Francisco's banged up. They struggled against a good defense last week. And Philly played the tough. We haven't talked about strength of schedule yet, because the first 3 games, the Chicago and Green Bay in the same division. And Buffalo and the Jags are in, okay divisions, and Carolina and Los Angeles played around, almost the same teams. But the Eagles have played the toughest strengths of schedule of anybody left in the playoffs, significantly more than somebody in the next game we'll talk about. And the Niners are banged up. Tate Batoon, IR, Fred Warner's replacement, he's done. D. Winters, another linebacker, he didn't practice all week. They're saying he's questionable. He might try. He might try to play. They need him badly out there, because this Fred Warner could return, but not this game. He could return later in the playoffs, though. Trent Williams has a hamstring injury. I think he's going to gut it out and try to play. They need him bad. You saw what happened last week against Seattle. Ricky Pearsall is questionable. Luke Gifford, another linebacker, questionable, and he's projected to start. Renard Green, the cornerback, and defensive lineman Dion White, also questionable. It's just every year this Niners team injured, and then we got the conspiracy theory I saw. Well, not a conspiracy theory, but a theory I saw, that it's because the Niners were playing next to an electrical substation, and the electricity I guess the electromagnetic radiation they would be receiving weakens their muscle and bone structures, which maybe I don't know if that's. But I mean, the evidence of they just keep getting injured. This team's been up until last week. It's been all offense, no defense for the 49ers. The 49ers, offensive line got gashed by the Niners or by the Hawks. I mean, Brock Purdy played a great game. He was fantastic, but no time. They couldn't block anybody. Now, this Eagles D line outside of Jalen Carter, I don't think is that good. So I'm not. It's more the scheme, the secondary, the linebackers that are the stars, not necessarily the defensive line for the Eagles. So I don't know if it's going to be the same sort of result here against San Francisco or against Philly as San Francisco had. And Kyle Shanahan has cooked this Eagles defense with the run game in the past. Outside of that game where they had no quarterback, this has been an over series, believe it or not, in the playoffs where we've seen the Niners and better Niners teams. I don't know, healthier, but on offense, this Niners team is really good. So the defense was better than those Niners teams. So, the defense is worse without Bosa and company and all those guys they lost, Buckner, etc. And this has been the Niners scoring in bunches, the Eagles responding. So I could see the Niners scoring here, and if the Niners score, I mean, and the Eagles are really gonna win by 7 points here. They limped into the playoffs, losing to Josh Johnson. Of course, they didn't start anybody. Lane Johnson looks like he's going to be back. That's huge. Offense is just, they've been lackluster for most of the game. I mean, outside of the Raiders game, has the offense been good in any of the recent games? And that was, the Vegas Raiders. Freaking, I could find 13 guys off the street that might be able to score 30 against the Vegas Raiders. Just horrible, the Raiders defense. So, they, like I said, they play the toughest ranked schedule. Significantly tougher than I don't know. Yeah, much tougher than the Niners. Maybe not, much tougher than the Niners. The Eagles' offense could be able to get going here. I mean, the Niners' defense is it's poor. So I am concerned with the bet I already made, but I'm not getting off. I mean, it's too much. But a lot of it has to do with the history. Hurts at home in the playoffs has been fantastic. Shanahan as an underdog at the playoffs has been horrible. And of course the strength of schedule numbers. But a lot of those Eagles games were at night. Okay, the Eagles have the best home. The Eagles in the playoffs at night is probably my highest home field. It's 2.5 to 3 points. This game is not at night. It's at 4:30. So we will transition, but it's not at night. So that might come into play. And I don't trust this offense to win by margin. I don't. So I would only bet the Niners here at the current number. Obviously, I took them at a worse number. But I'm thinking, Niners +6 would be the official show play. But I'm thinking the Eagles win by 3 or less. Right? I think the Eagles do win the game. The Niners are too banged up, but I think it's going to be 3. I think it's going to be closer than thought. I think the Niners offense is going to be able to get going a little bit, and I think the Eagles offense will probably peter out at some point in the game. A little bit, even against his poor defense, because we've seen it. We've seen the offensive coordinator ain't that good. They got players, but it's thin. But the starters are fantastic, and they just don't push the ball down the field. They're just going to run the clock. Like this could be, and that's the concern. Like I lean to the over here. But you really want to take an Eagles game over the total? I mean, I did a few weeks ago. I got lucky. There was a garbage time touchdown by the Commanders that pushed that game over the total. But I could see myself talking myself into an over by Sunday. Maybe I do. But lean to the over, and I am on San Francisco plus the points. As we move along to Sunday Night Football, where the Los Angeles Chargers... Now, notice something so far. Wildcard weekend, the Dogs have been very good the last few years, and if you look at every game, I've only taken Dogs so far, and that trend might continue. New England Patriots, Los Angeles Chargers. Patriots, 3.5-point home favorites. The total 45.5, 46. Chargers rested everyone. They were banged up against the Broncos. They didn't care who they played, really. They could have moved up to the 6. I think I'd rather play New England than Jacksonville anyways right now. And the Chargers got mollywopped by Jacksonville earlier this season, so why would you try for the 6? Now the Chargers 3-0 as underdogs this season, but 2 of them came against the Chiefs. So, we bet them late in the season as underdogs successfully. And I love this defense. This defense is fantastic. Justin Herbert's fantastic. The offensive line, of course, is the big, massive concern. But they have weapons. I mean, Quentin Johnson, Lad McConkey, Gadsden the tight. I can't pronounce, but Gadsden the tight end. And Harbaugh's a decent coach. Injuries to Dupree. Bud Dupree, Elijah Molden, and Amarian Hampton. Those are the questionables heading into this game. Obviously, they're banged up on the offensive line. They have been all season. It's the worst offensive line left. I think it was the worst offensive line rated going into the last game, but the Raiders are probably worse when they started resting guys. So, but that's not saying much. But yeah, I'm getting 2021 or it's 21 or 22, but when the Bengals that run the Bengals made, I'm kind of getting vibes from this Chargers team. You have a good defense. The Bengals had a good defense that year. Suspect offensive line. You have a quarterback sort of making up for that. And you got good weapons on the outside. You have an okay run game. You have a really, really good quarterback. I think the Chargers can make a run here. I'm not like they got the defense, they have the quarterback, they got the weapons. It's can they mask some of these offensive line weaknesses? And they've done they played Houston the other week and only lost by 4. That was a weird game, and Houston was dominating most of that game, but Houston really couldn't put them away. The defense kept them in it. Enough for Herbert to do some things. And then, of course, there was some picks back and forth. That game got weird. So maybe that's not the best example, but I was pleasantly surprised that they were that good against the Texans, and that they didn't get blown out of the building. The Patriots smashed the Finns at home to end their season. They had an impressive stretch down the stretch, or impressive run down the stretch of beating bad teams by margin, which is things we like to see, but there's no more bad teams left. And the New England Patriots played the single worst strength of schedule that maybe I've ever seen since I've been watching the game. It was bad. It was, their strength of schedule was horrible. And we know strength of schedule really matters here. Drake May, he's supposed to win the MVP, but I don't even know if he's going to be the best quarterback on the field on Sunday. I might take Herbert here, and it is his playoff debut. Now, Milton Williams will return for the Patriots along with Robert Spillane. Those are huge because that's going to mean Los Angeles might have to throw the football a little bit. Keyshawn Boutte and Harold Landry III are the two big questionables for the Patriots, and Kyrus Tonga, the nose tackle, he's still out. I bet the Chargers here plus 3.5. There's too much, my opinion, there's too much going against New England here. You have a rookie quarterback, or not a rookie quarterback, but a quarterback making his first playoff start, despite how great he's been playing, as a favorite. All right? Those haven't been great. You had a soft strength of schedule, the worst strength of schedule, and much worse compared to the Chargers. You have a questionable head coach in Mike Vrabel who makes some sus decisions. Josh McDaniels, those are very, very good. So, maybe that offsets. His play calling's been good. And, of course, Drake May's strength is the deep ball, and the Chargers have been known to take that away. So, we'll see how that plays out. And, of course, the distraction by Stephon Diggs and his lawsuit there. So, there's a lot of things going against the Patriots, and you're getting 3.5 points. The Patriots win this game by 3. And you win your money. So I like the Chargers plus 3.5, and I like under 46 in this game. I think the Chargers are going to lock this game down. I think Drake May might have some yips early. And the Chargers have been stone cold under team. Like outside of the Dallas game, the Dallas has no defense. It's been a stone cold under team. And it is a high total, 46, and it's going to be outdoors in the cold. That is another, you have the advantage New England there. It's a warm team going outdoors, but the Chargers are, the defense travels. I'm not as concerned. If this was Tua or an older quarterback going outside in the warm, a dome team like the Falcons with Kirk Cousins, something like that. I would be a little more concerned, but the Chargers, not really. And it's a late night game, so there's no early start. So yeah, like the 3.5 is the key. Like this should probably be 2.5, 3. I don't agree with this being on the other side of 3. I've seen people say, well, the Chargers have been disrespected for a while now in the markets. I know they didn't cover against Houston, but they were favored in that game. Like I said, as an underdog, they've been quite good. So I will take the Chargers here, and I'll take the under. More on the spread though than the total in this game. All right, one more game. Monday Night Football. Texans, Steelers. Steelers 3-point home dogs. The total 38.5. The Texans enter the playoffs on the longest winning streak, 9 straight wins. Started 0-3. I think they're the first team to make playoffs after starting 0-3 for a while. They're coming off a big win over Riley Leonard and the Colts to clinch the 5 seed. I mentioned last week, I didn't think that was the best idea for the Texans because I like the matchup against the Jags and the Patriots more than I like this matchup. This is going to be a grinded out, like 38.5. This is going to be a grinded out game, slow game. And the Steelers thrive in that. And the Ravens are, they've been in a million of those in the AFC North. They thrive in these kind of games. So I don't like the matchup here quite a bit. The defense got a bit gashed by Riley Leonard, but I mean, the Jags were up so much, they might have put some guys on the sideline, put some plays away. And we talked about last week the quote from D'Amico Ryans. Looked like he was playing I thought he might play base defense, and Phillip Rivers and Riley Leonard were picking that defense apart. Like they were playing it was no weird looks. It was base defense, and that was the reason we bet the Colts last week. Trent Brown, offensive tackle, Kamari Lassiter, cornerback, D'Amico Autry, defensive end, and Titus Howard, the left guard, are the notable players who didn't practice yesterday and limited today. So it's a playoff game. They're probably going to gut it out and try to go, all of them, but we'll see what happens. Trent Brown is very old for football years. And I believe, and there's like a running back who's not going to play, but whatever. Depth running back. Steelers are very healthy. Like, might be the healthiest team in the playoffs. And they're getting DK Metcalf back from suspension. Aaron Rodgers was excellent in that game against Baltimore. He almost had 300 yards with Calvin Austin as your number one wide receiver. Like, wow. This is the time of the year. You say what you will about Aaron Rodgers as a person. Say what you will about Aaron Rodgers as he's 42 years old. This is the time of the year where Aaron Rodgers and his high football IQ really come into play. And Super Bowl winning quarterbacks as underdogs in the wild card round have been excellent. Absolutely excellent. And get this stat. The Steelers haven't lost a home game on Monday night since 1991. It's been 35 years since the Steelers have lost a home game on Monday night. There was a quote-unquote Monday night football game during COVID that the Steelers lost at home, but it was played on Tuesday because of COVID delays. It's a night game in Pittsburgh. I mean, this is like you're telling me the Texans are 5.5, 6 points better. This is significant home field edge. We saw last week and they made it in. Like there's gonna be half that stadium believes this team can go to the Super Bowl. TJ Watt, Mr. Yinzer Magic is back. Guess what? He had an interception last week. Yinzer Magic will be in the air. I don't know. The priest, the father might be there again. I talked about this. I don't like the Texans as chalk. I don't. A little bit, this is an area where maybe, but not against this kind of team that can grind them. It's not a good matchup for them. Aaron Rodgers is going to read this defense, and I get it. The concern with backing Pittsburgh is that the Texans are going to get pressure with 4. Texas D-line is maybe the best in the league. They're going to get pressure with 4. They don't need to blitz. You don't want to blitz Rodgers, but you don't need to blitz. So it's going to be tough for Rodgers to get and they have a good defense. It's going to be tough for Rodgers to get the ball out. He's going to have to get the ball out quickly, and they do get the ball out quickly. So, but this Texans offense, they've been better down the stretch, and they'll probably get, Pittsburgh's liable to give it a big player too. The Steelers defense has been outside of the fourth quarter. They've been quite good the last few weeks, but of course the fourth quarter has been their woe. So in terms of the total, actually, I would only play the over, but I'm not going to. But I mean, it's 38. I know it's a playoff game, but I could see both teams moving the ball a little bit here. Aaron Rodgers is going to end the. Is it still Arthur Smith, the OC for Pittsburgh? Doesn't matter. It's Aaron Rodgers when Aaron Rodgers is quarterback. So, so I like. Yeah, I'm going to play small Pittsburgh +3. I just think the scenario. I said it last week. I didn't like the matchup if Houston did end up the 5 seed, regardless of who they played, because Houston doesn't run away with games, and if you let the Steelers hang around, like I said, it's what Cooper Kupp said. It takes one play to turn that momentum, and that place is going to be why the Texans could be dominating this game like the Ravens were, 10-0, 13-3, going into the fourth quarter. Steelers do nothing, and TJ Watt strips the ball out, and all of a sudden the game turns on a dime. Aaron Rodgers is gashing a tired defense in the fourth quarter. Gainwell can't be stopped. Kenneth Gainwell has been amazing. The crowd is going to be riot, and then you get that's the thing with the Pittsburgh. You got to put them away. You can't let them hang around. And the Texans don't put teams away. They let teams hang around. You let the Steelers hang around at home. Like I said, one big play, and that crowd is going to be loud. And and Pittsburgh goes down and score, making a 1-score game, and it's going to be loud. And there's a bad snap, or there's penalties on the Texans for false starts, and all of a sudden the Steelers have the ball back with a chance to win the game. And that's how I kind of feel this game's going to go. So I'm on Steelers +3, and I'm on Kenneth Gainwell over 62.5 rushing and receiving yards. I really like this because Rodgers knows he's got to get the ball out quick. Will Anderson and company are coming, and Gainwell's been fantastic, and I think Gainwell's going to get some carries in addition to the catches out of the backfield. So I'd rather take both because I could see, because if the Steelers are winning, they're going to run the ball, right? And I think Gainwell's been the guy recently. If Steelers are behind, it's going to be lots of checkdowns to Gainwell. So either way, I think we get the Gainwell yards. So I can actually play more on the Gainwell yards than I am on the Steelers. Or about the same probably. But I do like the Gainwell yards quite a bit. I forgot to mention in the Jacksonville game, I also like Parker Washington over 51.5. We're going to ride that until it loses. I mean, he's been fantastic. So, or until the season ends anyways for them. All right. Thank you all for watching. Of course, just a reminder, Pieguy9871 on YouTube, on Instagram to follow me, and the plays, which, I'm up 9 units on the season. That includes futures on Bucky Irving that were in so that includes a future on the Colts under that, lost by 1 game now that they lost 1 million in a row. And I'm kind of salty they didn't start losing 1 game earlier, but it wasn't the best play. I didn't expect any of the dimes to do that. So, all right. Best bet. What wild card weekend? It's pretty close. I like a lot of these bets equally, but I think there's just it's one of two. It's one of two. Yeah, I think I like the Chargers. They're a close second. The Chargers are a close second, but there's enough injury concerns on the Chargers and concerns that maybe New England's a little better than what, despite playing a soft schedule. Sometimes that happens. But I'm pretty confident the Jaguars are going to score here. So I'm pretty confident that the Bills are the team with the injury concerns of this one. Even if the Bills were a little healthier, I'd still like Jacksonville. I don't trust the Bills offense. The Bills definitely don't trust the Bills defense. The Jaguars have historically done well but outside of that one game where they got pummeled on Monday night from a few years ago where everybody was on the Jags and I was on the Bills. But outside of that one game, Jags had pretty good success against Buffalo, even with Allen. Of course, they have Josh Hines Allen. And I think he will be the difference in this. Well, I think this is honestly, the number's bad. The Jaguars are red hot. The Bills are in trouble. The Bills are injured. The Bills are on the road. The Bills, I forgot to mention this, the Bills have not won a road playoff game under McDermott. So Jags, money line for me. Just win the game. I looked at the team total, but I worry. It is a playoff game. Points could be at a premium. I like the under. So, I'm off the team total, but just to win the game, Jacksonville here. It's two teams going in opposite directions, and I trust one coach. Believe it or not, if Josh Allen beats me, Josh Allen beats me. But Pieguy's best bet, Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's go Jags, and let's go TK. And next week, often the best week in football. Tune in for the divisional round. Thank you all for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next week for the NFL divisional round breakdown on another edition of Pie Guys Pick'em. Goodbye.